For 7 years, I dedicated myself to the same company, to the same desk, to the same fluorescent lights that hummed softly above me every day. It wasn't glamorous work, project coordination at a mid level marketing agency, but it paid the bills, gave me stability, and in a strange way, it grounded me. I knew the coffee machine's quirks, the creaky floor tile by the printer, and the way my boss nodded when he was only half listening. My life revolved around routine, and I liked it that way. Predictability brought comfort. I started dating Hannah 2 years into my job. She was smart, charming, and had that spark that drew people to her. We met through mutual friends and quickly became inseparable. She had ambition but no direction, energy but no stable platform to pour it into. When she complained about her inconsistent freelance gigs, I saw an opportunity. Our office had an opening in the communications department. I vouched for her, pulled strings, and got her an interview. She nailed it and was hired 2 weeks later. At first, it felt like a dream. We drove to work together, shared lunch breaks, and even helped each other with deadlines. Colleagues teased us about being the office couple. And although I played it cool, I felt proud. I'd brought her into my world, a world I'd worked hard to build. But things started to shift about 8 months in. Hannah became distant. Not cold, just distracted. She stopped joining me for lunch and began staying late for extra work. Her demeanor changed too. She was more confident, more assertive, sometimes even dismissive of my input in meetings. I chalked it up to her growing into the role, to finding her footing professionally. Still, something gnawed at me, a quiet doubt I couldn't shake. The worst part was that I trusted her. I didn't want to be the jealous boyfriend who second guessed everything. So I suppressed the unease and focused on my work. After all, I had a big campaign deadline coming up, and my performance review was around the corner. Then came the day that rewrote everything. I was called into my manager's office, our regional director, Greg. He was relatively new, having joined the company 6 months earlier. He was charismatic and sharp, the kind of leader who commanded the room without raising his voice. He got results, and people respected him for it. I, on the other hand, always felt like I was under a microscope whenever he was around. That day he delivered the blow without flinching. "We're restructuring," he said. "Unfortunately, your position is being eliminated." It didn't make sense. I was one of the longest standing employees. My last project had exceeded client expectations. But none of that mattered. I was being let go with 2 weeks severance and a pat on the back. I walked out of the office in a haze. Hannah wasn't at her desk. I texted her, called her, waited in the lobby for over an hour. She never showed up. When I finally got home, she was already there, acting nervous, evasive, mumbling something about Greg wanting to talk to her privately about new opportunities. I knew. I didn't want to know, but I knew. The pieces fell together with terrifying clarity. The late nights, the sudden career jump, her newfound confidence around the man who had just fired me. She hadn't just climbed the ladder, she'd used me as the rung to get on it, then jumped to another one the moment it suited her. She moved out 2 days later. No apology, no explanation. Just a box of her things and a cold goodbye. I was left with nothing. No job, no relationship, and no sense of stability. The life I had built for 7 years collapsed in a single week. But instead of falling apart, something inside me hardened. The betrayal lit a fire I didn't know I had. I wasn't going to let her, or him, define the rest of my life. This was the end of one chapter, yes. But it would also be the start of something much, much bigger. Losing the job felt like free falling into darkness. I had spent years building up my professional life, piece by piece, brick by brick, only to watch it collapse in a matter of days. My inbox was cut off, my work laptop returned, my badge disabled. I walked out of the building that final time with a small box of personal items and an even smaller sense of self-worth. No farewell gathering, no recognition, just silence. Worse yet, Hannah didn't say a word. No message, no call, no remorse. The first week was the hardest. I kept expecting to wake up from some twisted dream. I kept thinking maybe she would return, apologize, tell me it was all a misunderstanding. But she didn't. Her social media told me everything I needed to know. Pictures of conferences, fancy dinners, and eventually a weekend trip that Greg just happened to be on as well. My stomach twisted every time I scrolled past another filtered snapshot of her glowing beside the man who had taken everything from me. But I couldn't stop looking. I wanted to hurt. I wanted to feel it all. The days bled together. I stopped answering calls from friends. I turned down every invitation, every offer to talk it out. I wasn't ready. I was angry, humiliated, lost. The apartment we had shared felt like a tomb, silent, suffocating, and full of memories that now stung like open wounds. I couldn't walk into the kitchen without picturing her dancing barefoot while cooking. I couldn't lie in bed without remembering her falling asleep on my shoulder. After 2 weeks of mourning, something inside me shifted. I was done crying. Something about hitting rock bottom wakes you up in ways nothing else can. I looked around at the wreckage of my old life and realized I had nothing left to lose. That freedom, once terrifying, suddenly felt like power. I didn't need to rebuild what I had lost. I could build something new, something better. I started by deleting every trace of her. Photos, messages, even shared playlists. Gone. I packed every item she left behind and dropped it off at her sister's place without saying a word. I unsubscribed from company newsletters, blocked Greg's smug LinkedIn updates, and removed every last tie to that life. Then, I took a long, hard look at myself in the mirror. I was tired, hollow-eyed, worn down. But beneath all that, there was still something left. A spark. A reason to fight. With no job and plenty of time, I threw myself into self-education. I spent hours researching new skills. I'd always been curious about tech, web design, automation, e-commerce, but I never had time to explore it while working full-time. Now I devoured online courses like my life depended on it. I spent 12-hour days learning how to code, how to market online, how to build something from scratch. Money was tight. I took up freelance gigs to stay afloat, writing product descriptions, fixing WordPress errors, managing online shops for small businesses. The pay was low, but it gave me experience. Every small win became fuel. Every satisfied client became proof that I wasn't broken, that I still had value. 3 months passed, and something incredible began to happen. My skills compounded. Clients started recommending me to others. A local boutique hired me to build their online store from scratch. It was the first time I felt truly needed in months. They loved the result and paid me double what I'd earned in a week at my old job. I kept going. Soon, I wasn't just freelancing. I was building a personal brand. I created a portfolio site, optimized it for search engines, started sharing tips and tutorials. I joined communities, networked, collaborated. Slowly, I built an audience. Then, I launched my first course, teaching the exact steps I'd taken to pivot careers after losing everything. The course went viral. Within weeks, I was earning more in a month than I had in a year at the agency. But more importantly, I felt alive again. The success wasn't just financial. I was sleeping better. I was working out. I reconnected with friends, made new ones, started smiling again. I even traveled, something I hadn't done in years. Every new place, every new experience reminded me that life hadn't ended. It had restarted. And then, 6 months after I hit bottom, I got a message. It was Hannah. The name alone sent a jolt through my chest. She kept it casual, asked how I'd been, said she'd heard about my course through a mutual acquaintance. She said she was happy for me, but there was a note of hesitation in her words. Like she wasn't just reaching out to reconnect, she was peeking into a life that no longer included her. I didn't reply. There was nothing to say. She had made her choice. So had I. Only now, I was building something on my own terms. She didn't break me. Greg didn't break me. They lit the fire that forged someone stronger. This wasn't revenge. This was evolution. Months had passed since I last thought about Hannah without bitterness. The sting had dulled, replaced by focus and quiet pride. My course had grown beyond my expectations. What started as a modest project turned into a full-time business, bringing in consistent revenue and recognition. I had launched 2 more programs, each targeting freelancers and career switchers like me, people hungry for change and afraid to start over. I was no longer just a guy who got betrayed. I had become an expert in rebuilding, in turning setbacks into fuel. I had hundreds of testimonials, glowing reviews, and a thriving online community. I started getting invites to speak at small virtual conferences, podcasts, even write guest articles. My name became associated with growth, resilience, and transformation. And I did it all without stepping back into that toxic office culture. I moved to a new apartment, brighter, more spacious, filled with plants and clean energy. It felt like breathing fresh air after years of suffocation. Every inch of it was mine, not a reminder of the past, not a single ghost of my old relationship. I bought a standing desk, a better laptop, upgraded my wardrobe. I started running every morning. My mind was sharper and my confidence unshakable. But the past has a strange way of circling back. One day, as I was reviewing client feedback, I noticed a familiar last name in a new email inquiry. It wasn't Hannah, but her cousin. She was reaching out about a potential collaboration. She ran a small design studio and was interested in building a paid course with my help. I agreed professionally and kept my emotions in check. She had likely heard about me through family gossip or LinkedIn. I didn't care. But 2 weeks into our collaboration, she casually mentioned Hannah. Apparently, things hadn't gone the way Hannah expected. Her affair with Greg fizzled quickly. The initial excitement faded, and soon she was just another employee, no longer the shiny new favorite. Office rumors suggested that Greg had moved on to someone else. Hannah's position became unstable. She had filed a complaint when things turned cold, but with Greg's seniority and the lack of solid evidence, nothing happened. Eventually, she left, quietly, without a fight. Hearing all that didn't make me gloat. I didn't smile. I just felt done, like a door had finally shut for good. But closure comes in many forms. 3 months later, I attended a local entrepreneur meetup. I'd been invited as a featured speaker, and I was excited to share my story with others. The room was filled with energy, people scribbling notes, nodding, coming up to me after to say how my talk hit home. As I stepped out to grab a drink afterward, I saw her, Hannah. She stood by the corner of the lobby, clutching a glass of white wine, dressed in business casual that looked less polished than I remembered. Her eyes met mine, and for a moment, time slowed. Her expression shifted recognition, shock, and then regret. She approached cautiously. Her posture wasn't proud or defensive. It was hesitant. She said she had heard about my success and wanted to congratulate me. She didn't mention the past, didn't apologize, but her eyes did all the talking. There was a weight in her gaze, something heavy and unspoken. I nodded politely, said thank you. That was it. No bitterness, no revenge speech, no dramatic closure. I had moved on. Later that night, I reflected on everything that had happened: the betrayal, the humiliation, the months of struggle, and then growth, purpose, a new identity. I realized that the best revenge isn't proving someone wrong with words. It's building a life where their absence is your blessing. I had climbed out of the wreckage of betrayal and built a fortress from the debris. I wasn't the same man she had left behind. I was stronger, clearer, more determined. And most importantly, I was free. Free from the need to be validated by people who discarded me. Free from the bitterness that once kept me company. I didn't need Hannah to know how far I'd come, but she saw it anyway. And in the quiet way she lowered her eyes as we parted, I understood one final truth. Some people only realize your value when it's far too late. But by then, you've already moved on to something better. After walking out of the office for the last time, I felt like my life had been shattered into 1,000 pieces. I'd spent 7 years building a foundation, only to watch it collapse under the weight of betrayal and office politics. But rock bottom has a way of showing you what truly matters and what you're truly made of. The first few weeks were brutal. I applied for dozens of jobs, but my confidence was shot. I kept replaying everything in my head: the late nights helping her prepare reports, introducing her to the team, watching her blossom in a role I helped her get. And then, the moment I learned she had chosen the boss over me, like I was just a stepping stone. The humiliation stung more than anything else, but pain is a powerful motivator. I stopped trying to replicate the life I had before and started thinking bigger. I had always dreamed of starting my own business, but had buried the idea under the comfort of a steady paycheck. Now, with nothing left to lose, I decided to take the leap. I pooled my savings, moved into a smaller apartment, and used every waking moment to research, learn, and build. At first, it was just me and a laptop. I specialized in data analytics and offered my services to small businesses that couldn't afford full-time staff. Word spread faster than I expected. One client turned into 3, then 5. I worked long hours, often forgetting to eat or sleep properly. But unlike before, every ounce of effort was mine alone. Every gain was a win I had earned through resilience. Months passed, and I found myself doing better financially than I ever had at the office. I hired a small team and upgraded to a co-working space. More than that, I felt different, stronger, wiser, and for the first time, free. No longer chained to corporate ladders or office drama. I set my own rules and chose my own direction. One evening, while scrolling through social media, I saw a post that nearly made my heart stop. It was her, the woman I had once loved, the one who left me for a better title and a few shallow promises. She looked different, thinner, tired. Her post was vague, hinting at difficulties and unexpected changes. Out of curiosity, I clicked through her profile. Most of the photos that once featured the boss were gone. The cheerful captions replaced with cryptic messages about starting over. I didn't feel anger, not anymore. What I felt was clarity. While she had climbed fast, she'd also fallen just as quickly. Office rumors eventually reached me through mutual acquaintances. Apparently, the boss had grown tired of her. When she lost her usefulness, he cut her loose, both professionally and personally. And now, she was scrambling to find a job with no references and a reputation stained by scandal. It was poetic in a way. The very ladder she climbed on my shoulders had crumbled beneath her. As my business grew, so did my sense of purpose. I began mentoring others who had gone through professional setbacks. I told them my story, not for pity, but as proof that failure doesn't define you. I was building more than just a company. I was building a legacy fueled by resilience. Around this time, I met someone new. She wasn't flashy or cunning. She was grounded, kind, and had a quiet confidence that reminded me of who I used to be. We met through a mutual friend at a charity event. She had started her own nonprofit after leaving a toxic corporate job, and we connected over our shared experiences. She never asked about my past in detail. She respected my silence but supported my present. With her by my side, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: peace. Every success tasted sweeter because I had earned it through hardship. I had transformed betrayal into motivation, heartbreak into strength. While the past remained a chapter of my story, it no longer held power over me. I was no longer defined by what had been taken from me, but by what I had built from the ruins. Little did I know, the final thread to this story was about to be woven. A chance encounter in a foreign place would soon bring the past face to face with the man I'd become. And this time, the tables would be turned. Nearly 2 years had passed since I was forced out of the office that once shaped my identity. In that time, I had built something of my own, something real. The business was thriving, my personal life was grounded, and the pain of betrayal had faded into a distant echo. I rarely thought about her anymore, until fate decided to stage one final act. I'd flown to Barcelona for a tech conference. It wasn't something I usually attended, but a client had offered VIP passes and encouraged me to use the opportunity to network. The event itself was impressive. Hundreds of ambitious minds in one place, sharing ideas and innovations. I spent my time connecting with potential partners, gathering inspiration, and genuinely enjoying the atmosphere of progress. One afternoon, I ducked into a quiet cafe near the Gothic Quarter to escape the noise. The place was small and charming, filled with soft light and the aroma of espresso. I was sipping coffee and checking emails when I heard a voice place an order behind me. Familiar, unmistakable. My stomach tightened involuntarily. I turned slowly, and there she was, standing at the counter in a faded coat, hair tied back, looking tired and slightly out of place among the lively tourists. For a moment, I thought I might be imagining her, but when she turned and our eyes met, the expression on her face confirmed everything: shock, recognition, regret. She walked over, hesitant, like someone stepping onto fragile ice. I nodded, acknowledging her presence without offering more. She sat down across from me, and for a few seconds we just sat in silence. She looked different, older, though not in years, more in spirit. Her confidence was gone, replaced by something quieter, humbler. She asked how I was. I told her the truth. Business was good. Life was better. Peaceful. She smiled faintly, the kind of smile that tries to mask envy and sorrow. Then she told me her side of the story. Not that I had asked. She said things hadn't gone the way she expected. That after the office scandal, she struggled to find work. The boss she had sacrificed everything for had replaced her with someone else a few months later. She had moved cities twice, tried freelancing, even took a job at a startup that eventually went bankrupt. I thought I was making the right choice, and she said, I thought he would help me go further. I didn't respond. Not because I was angry, I wasn't, but because there was nothing left to say. The past had already spoken for both of us. She looked down at the table. I've followed your journey online, she admitted. I've seen what you built. It's impressive. There was a time when hearing those words from her might have brought me a sense of victory. Now, they just sounded like echoes from a story that no longer mattered. As she continued speaking, it became clear what she wanted. Not reconciliation exactly, but perhaps some form of closure. Maybe a signal that I still cared, or that there was a crack left in the wall she had helped build between us. But there wasn't. I had sealed that wall with discipline, self-worth, and time. Before she could ask for anything more, another coffee, another conversation, another attempt at connection, I stood up. "I wish you the best," I said, and I meant it. She blinked, clearly unprepared for how easily I could walk away now. But this time, I walked away with purpose. I had already lived through the fire. I had emerged from the ashes with more than I ever thought possible. Not just success, but freedom, clarity. Outside, the sun was beginning to dip below the old rooftops, casting long golden shadows across the narrow streets. As I walked, I felt lighter than I had in years. That chapter, perhaps the most painful one in my life, was finally closed, not with bitterness, but with strength. I met my new partner later that evening. We had plans to tour the city and enjoy a local wine tasting. When she asked how my day had gone, I smiled and simply said, "Unexpected, but exactly what I needed." That night, as we strolled past the glowing street lamps of Barcelona hand in hand, I realized something. Sometimes life takes everything from you so it can give you back something better. Not just success, not just love, but the power to forgive without forgetting, to move forward without clinging to what was. In the end, she had her path, and I had mine, and mine had led to peace.